The station where people were forgotten. Outpost Meridian wasn't meant to be permanent. That was what the corporate charter said, anyway. A temporary logistics station on the edge of explored space, positioned along a low-traffic trade corridor between human systems and a scattering of alien territories that barely acknowledged each other. Meridian existed to refuel ships, process cargo, and quietly disappear anyone who didn't matter enough to bring home. By the time I arrived, it had been temporary for 37 years. The station hung against the void like a rusted thought no one bothered to finish. Its outer hull was scarred from micrometeor impacts and patched with mismatched alloys. Whole sections were powered down to save energy. Gravity fluctuated just enough to make your bones ache if you stayed too long. People didn't come to Meridian to build futures. They came to wait things out. I was one of them. After my contract with the Colonial Engineering Corps ended early, budget cuts, nothing personal, I took the first job that didn't require recommendations. Station maintenance. Low pay, long hours, minimal oversight. Perfect for someone trying not to think too much. Every cycle followed the same pattern. Wake, work, eat alone, sleep, repeat. Which was why I noticed her the first time I saw her. She was sitting near the hydroponics access corridor, tucked into the shadow where the lights flickered irregularly. Small, too still, alien in a way that didn't draw attention so much as repel it, like everyone around her had unconsciously decided not to see her at all. I almost did the same. Almost. 2. The one everyone avoided. Meridian hosted dozens of species, most of them transient. Traders, refugees, contract workers. The station's unspoken rule was simple: don't get involved. I'd learned that fast. But the alien woman, if that's what she was, stood out by how completely she didn't exist in anyone else's world. People walked around her like she was debris. Automated carts rerouted to avoid her space. Even station security seemed to look through her rather than at her. She wore layered fabric wraps that were threadbare and patched, their original colors faded beyond recognition. Her skin was pale with a faint, pearlescent sheen, marked by thin lines that might have been natural or might have been scars. Her eyes were large, dark, and always lowered. I started seeing her every day, always in the same general area, always alone, always watching people pass with an expression that was not fear, not anger, resignation. One evening, as I finished a double shift recalibrating air filters, I stopped by the mess hall to grab my ration. Protein loaf, nutrient paste, recycled water, standard issue. I took my tray and sat at the far end, like usual. That's when I realized something that made my stomach twist. She was sitting near the disposal units, picking through discarded trays. Carefully, methodically, like this wasn't new. No one stopped her. No one reacted at all. I watched as she hesitated over a half-eaten portion of algae mash, clearly calculating risk versus hunger. When she finally reached for it, her hand shook. That was the moment I understood. She wasn't invisible because she was alien. She was invisible because she had nothing anyone wanted. 3. You can have mine. I don't know what made me stand up. I wasn't brave. I wasn't generous by nature. Mostly, I was tired of watching people fall through the cracks and pretending it wasn't my problem. I carried my tray over and stopped a few steps away from her. She froze. Her head snapped up, eyes wide, pupils dilating in a way my implant flagged as fear. Her body folded inward, shoulders curling protectively. I raised my free hand. Hey. It's okay. I'm not here to cause trouble. She didn't respond. Up close, she looked worse. Too thin. Her movements were stiff, like malnutrition had settled into her joints. There were faint discolorations along her neck and wrists, signs of prolonged nutrient deficiency. I swallowed. You hungry? That finally got a reaction. Her gaze flicked to my tray, then away again. A subtle shake of her head.
A lie.
I crouched slowly, keeping my movements deliberate. Look, I'm not supposed to leave food unattended anyway, I said, grasping at excuses. Station policy and all. But I don't really need all of this. I slid my tray toward her. You can have mine. The silence stretched. For a moment I thought she might bolt, or lash out, or simply stare until I got uncomfortable and left. Instead, she whispered something in a language my implant struggled to translate. Why? The word came through fractured, uncertain. I hesitated. Because you look like you need it more than I do. Her hands hovered over the tray, but didn't touch it. I have no credits, she said slowly, choosing her words with care. I cannot trade. I offer nothing. I met her gaze. I'm not asking for anything. That seemed to confuse her more than suspicion would have. Finally, cautiously, she picked up the tray. She didn't eat right away. She just held it. For a name she barely used, she ate like someone who expected the food to be taken away at any second. Small bites. Long pauses. Constant glances around the mess hall, bracing for confrontation that never came. Her shoulders gradually relaxed as the reality set in. No one was stopping her. I stayed crouched nearby, pretending to scroll through my wrist display. When she finished, she placed the tray carefully back on the table, aligning it perfectly with the edge.
Thank you, she said.
Her voice was soft, almost brittle. I'm Alex, I replied. You have a name? She hesitated. I am called Sarail. Or I was. Something in the way she said it made my chest tighten. Was. My people no longer claim me, she said matter-of-factly. So the name has little use. I frowned. Why's that? Her fingers twisted together. I failed. That was all she offered. I didn't push. Instead, I stood and nodded toward the corridor. I usually eat around this time. If you're here tomorrow, I can bring extra. Her eyes widened again. You would do this again? Yeah, I said. I would. She studied my face like she was searching for deception and finding none. I will be here, she said. And she was. Small meals, quiet conversations, it became a routine. I brought food. Sometimes mine, sometimes I picked up an extra ration using maintenance privileges I probably shouldn't have abused. She accepted it with increasing confidence, though she always thanked me like it mattered more than survival. We talked. Not much at first. Sarail's species, the Athari, were not built for scarcity. Their physiology relied on a steady intake of complex nutrients native to their homeworld. Off-world substitutes worked, but poorly. Prolonged deficiency led to weakness, cognitive fog, emotional suppression. In simpler terms, starvation didn't just make her hungry. It erased her. How did you end up here? I asked one day as we sat near the observation window, watching cargo ships drift in and out. She stared at the stars. I was part of a cultural exchange delegation. We were meant to study trade systems, cooperation models. And the funding was withdrawn. Political tides shifted. Our hosts were recalled. She paused. I was deemed non-essential. Left behind. I applied for passage home, she continued. But I lacked the credits. Then I lacked the strength to work. I clenched my jaw. And no one helped. No one was obligated to, she said. So no one did. There was no bitterness in her tone. That scared me more than anger would have. 6. The way she looked at kindness, the more time we spent together, the more I noticed how she reacted to simple things. When I remembered her preferred nutrient blend, she looked stunned. When I asked if she was in pain, she hesitated like the question itself was foreign. When I offered to walk her back to her sleeping alcove, an abandoned maintenance compartment barely fit for habitation, she nearly refused out of reflex. "Why do you do this?" she asked one cycle, voice trembling. I sighed. "Because someone should have done it for you earlier." Her eyes glistened. "On my world, care is transactional. Support is earned. Mercy is a liability." "That sounds lonely," I said. "It is efficient," she replied automatically. Then softer. "But it is very cold." She started waiting for me before meals. I started looking forward to seeing her. 7. When the station took notice, kindness rarely goes unnoticed forever. Station security flagged the irregular food access logs within weeks. I was summoned for questioning, warned about misuse of resources. "She's malnourished," I argued. "She's not stealing. She's surviving." "That's not our concern," the officer replied flatly. "Meridian is not a charity." I left furious. That night, I found Sorrel curled in her alcove, trembling. "They spoke to you," she said before I could open my mouth. "Yeah," I admitted. "But don't worry. I'll figure something out." Her fingers gripped the thin blanket. "You should not risk punishment for me." "I'm not risking anything," I lied. She shook her head. "On my world, association with the failing brings consequences." "Then your world is wrong," I snapped. She flinched. I took a breath. "Sorry." "I didn't mean to." "No," she said quickly. "I appreciate your anger. It means you care." The word landed heavily between us. Care. 8. The breaking point, the turning point came the day I found her collapsed. She tried to ration herself, skipping meals when she thought I might get in trouble. Her body couldn't handle it. I carried her to the infirmary myself, ignoring the stares, the questions, the administrative warnings flashing on my display. The medic took one look at her readings and swore. She should have been treated weeks ago. "She didn't have clearance," I said. The medic sighed. "Figures." Sorrel drifted in and out of consciousness, her skin duller than I'd ever seen it. I stayed. When she woke, her eyes found me immediately. "You're here," she murmured. "Of course," I said. Her voice cracked. "I thought, when I stopped being useful, you would leave too." The words hurt more than any reprimand. "I didn't help you because you were useful," I said quietly. "I helped you because you're alive." She stared at me like that idea alone rewrote her understanding of existence. 9. A decision bigger than a meal. The station offered her two options after recovery: indentured labor or deportation to a neutral world with no guarantee of survival. Neither felt like a choice. I did something reckless. I filed a sponsorship request. For her. It meant extending my contract indefinitely, forfeiting transfer privileges, and assuming responsibility for her well-being under station law. Everyone told me I was an idiot. Sorrel cried when she found out. Actual tears, luminous and fragile. "No one has ever claimed me," she whispered. "I'm not claiming you," I said gently. "I'm standing with you." That distinction mattered to her. Learning to live again. Recovery wasn't instant. Some damage took time to reverse. Some scars, physical and otherwise, would never fully fade. But slowly, Sorrel changed. She laughed once, startled by the sound of it. She began helping in hydroponics, relearning strength without punishment. She started eating without fear. One evening, as we shared a meal by the observation window, the same place we'd first talked, she turned to me. "On my world," she said, "offering food is a declaration. It means, I see you. Your survival matters to me." I smiled faintly. Guess I said more than I realized. She nodded. "You did." 11. The ending she never expected. Years later, Meridian was finally decommissioned. I was offered relocation. So was she. We left together. On a small transport bound for a world that welcomed refugees and misfits alike, Sorrel sat beside me, holding a meal tray between us. She broke the ration in half and handed me a piece. "For you," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "You don't have to." "I know," she replied softly. "That's why it matters." She thought no one cared, until someone offered her a meal, and in doing so, reminded her, and me, that sometimes the smallest kindness is the beginning of an entirely new life.